Hello, and welcome to another episode of Vυζάντιο Explained. About a year ago, Yanis and I had the opportunity to record our very first roundtable with scholars from the Department of Byzantine and Modern Greek Studies, the Center for Humanities of the University of Cologne, as well as the Sorbonne University of Paris. In this episode, we are joined by Claudia Sode, Alessio Sopracasa, Claes Neuefeind, Martina Filosa, and Jan Bigalke to talk about digital approaches in Byzantine Sigillography and their project Sigidoc.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you all for being here. Together with us, we have an amazing group of great scholars. We're recording our first roundtable today, Panos. For this reason, I would like to invite Martina, who is our coordinator for today, to come off mute and introduce our guests.
Thank you, Gabriel and Panos, for the very nice invitation. And we're very happy to be here and to be able to talk to you about digital Byzantine sigillography. Here we have a big group, but not everybody, belonging to two actually projects that we have going on at the University of Cologne. And I will say very briefly a couple of things about these two projects, and then everyone will say something about themselves. So the first project in which we are working is founded by the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft and the ANR, the Agence Nationale de la Recherche, and it's called Unlocking the Hidden Value of Seals, New Methodologies for Historical Research in Byzantine Studies, short DigiByzSeal. And this project is at the University of Cologne and at the Paris CNRS, and is led by our three PIs, which are Claudia Sode, Claes Neuefeind for the Cologne team, and Alessio Sopracasa for the French team. And we are going to talk about our results from this project later today. And the other project that we're working on, this is however only in Cologne, is the project Digital Byzantine Studies, creating a sustainable digital infrastructure for research-based teaching in Byzantine studies. And this is founded by the Volkswagen Stiftung, from the Volkswagen Foundation in English. And it is led by Claudia Sode and Claes Neuefeind, once again, only based in Cologne. And its goal is to create a sustainable digital infrastructure for teaching and training in digital Byzantine studies broadly, but with a big chunk, let's say, of digital Byzantine sigillography. And so I would say I introduced both Claudia and Claes and a little bit of Alessio. And so I myself, I am in both projects in a way, doing a bit of digital Byzantine sigillography for both projects, and teaching in the framework of the second project I mentioned. Having said that, I think I will hand over to Gabriel.
Thank you very much, Martina. And as I said, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate the time you're putting in for the podcast. And as we said earlier, the main goal of this episode is to promote the amazing work you're doing in Cologne and in France, Alessio. So I would like to pass it on to you to give you a couple of minutes to say a little bit more about what you're doing. Claudia, I would like to pass it on to you first.
Yeah, hello, Gabriel. Hi, Panos. And first of all, I would like to thank you for the possibility to participate in this podcast. That's a wonderful opportunity for us to share the results of our still ongoing projects. And it's a great pleasure to be here. As Martina already mentioned, we do run 2 projects at the University of Cologne, one in cooperation with Paris. I'm a trained historian and sigillographer, and I was involved in the efforts of establishing a common digital standard for publishing Byzantine seals called Sigidoc since very long. That's a project that goes back about 20 years, and it was investigated by our very dear friend and colleague Charlotte Rocher, together with Jean-Claude Chenet. There were meetings in London, Paris, Dumbarton Oaks at the time, but I would say the time wasn't ripe, and no much results were achieved, and things got a push forward at the time when Alessio got a Marie Curie Fellowship at the King's College in London and started developing Sigidoc proper in cooperation with Charlotte Rocher and Gabrielle Baudard. And at a certain point, I think it was around 2016 or so, we got together, Paris and Cologne, in order to develop Sigidoc further, but everything that had been achieved by then was based on individual work in a way. So we were in need of getting funding and to cooperate with people from the Digital Humanities. So we got in touch with the CCH in Cologne, the Cologne Center for Humanities, with our colleague and friend Claes Neuefeind, and applied for funding, which we succeeded, as Martina said, from both Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft and the Agence Nationale de la Recherche, for a project that ran for 3 years, which had the main aims, two aims actually. One was to digitally edit 4 major collections, including one private collection in Cologne, which is held by Robert Feind, and includes something like 1,700 seals. And the second aim was to develop Sigidoc as the encoding standard. So, as I said, I'm an historian, I'm a sigillographer. What we did in the department was mostly the analysis of the seals from the Robert Feind collection. This we did within the team, which consists of more people than Martina and me, and we also very intensively cooperated with student assistants. We believe that teaching and dissemination is extremely important, so we taught sigillography in the framework of a curricular seminar. So the seminar gave the students a chance to proper seals, the original seals, and to have them in their hands. So with regard to the Robert Feind collection, we try to develop what we call a critical mass of seals that we have been studied in order to test Sigidoc against the needs that arise from sigillography. And this was the second aim, as I said, the development of Sigidoc as an encoding standard. And this happened in the framework of long discussions in the team. In both Paris, Cologne, we had meetings in Rome. And this was a very intensive but very successful cooperation, since the colleagues from the CCH do not only bring the DH competences, but they are also trained in historical subjects proper. So they really understood our need. We needed a critical mass in order to test Sigidoc against the requirements that arise from Byzantine sigillography. And this was developed, Sigidoc was developed in long and very intensive meetings in the team in both Cologne, Paris. We had meetings in Rome and other places. That's what we did mostly in the department. One thing I would like to mention is we just recently hosted the 13th International Symposium of Byzantine Sigillography in Cologne at the end of March 2025, which had the title Byzantine Sigillography, Tradition and Innovation. And at this symposium, we launched Sigidoc in a way, and we had other presentations, mainly by colleagues from Bulgaria, who apply Sigidoc to their collections. There's a lot of things going on in the field. We are still in the beginning, but we are convinced that digital Byzantine sigillography is the future, and we really need digital publications.
Thank you very much for this overview of the project. Really, we saw and we were very jealous because we weren't there. We weren't alone during the symposium, but Martina kept us posted about the great papers. Very interesting that you are also teaching sigillography. I did a seminar recently with Christos Malatras about sigillography, and he mentioned that there are just a couple of universities globally that teach sigillography, so it's a great privilege for your students to be there, really, and learn sigillography from you. We will say a little bit more about this in a bit. Now I would like to pass it on to Panos for the next part, and thank you very much again, Claudia.
Yes, so digitizing Byzantium is the next big thing, in my opinion, because that's what we researchers have the need in order to invest our time, our efforts in promoting Byzantine materials in general. So, in this case, we have a Sigidoc. Can you give us an overview of this project, what its aims, how the development established, or any key features of the Sigidoc, of this project?
That's quite interesting. Claudia already mentioned that it has quite a long history, which is it began like 20 years ago. So I can only talk about like the last 3 years, so to say, because we're from the CCH, we joined in later, so to say. But first of all, we might start with what Sigidoc is. So Sigidoc is actually an encoding standard. So encoding means just to describe things in a proper or defined way. So, and the Sigidoc standard is based on Epidoc, which itself is based on TEI, which is the Text Encoding Initiative. And the use of standards is, like broadly spoken, in the field of digital humanities, one of the key features that we're propagating. Because if you work with standardized descriptions, you make your data, let's say, more comparable and more reusable and even more findable. These are all key words that we normally use just to describe the broad feature of standards. When you look at Sigidoc as an encoding standard, you have to imagine it as being something like a edition or editorial guideline. So when you want to describe a seal, you have a set of categories that you have to mention, which begins with, I don't know, the size and the obverse and the reverse, just to describe what you see there. But the categories that you want to describe are things like the iconography, for example. And for this, you need to define the categories, and this is what we do with a standard, actually. And as Claudia already described, the aim of our cooperative project was to build a corpus, and in building this corpus, to gain the experiences, which categories we need to integrate into that Sigidoc standard. So we ended up with a set of descriptive categories which make up the standard, so to say. So this would be like the broad description of what Sigidoc is. And if you need like details of where the, I don't know, the most problematic cases were found, then we should address Alessio with it, because Alessio is like deep into negotiating about how this key feature should be described or the other, and so on. So I would just pass on to you, Alessio.
Thank you, Claes. Yes, but basically, all we did especially since the DigiByzSeal project started, was common discussions about what this data model should be and how it should work in order to properly describe Byzantine seals. So the idea was actually to have this critical mass mentioned by Claudia of cases in order to have more and more problems to solve. That was the point. And the only way to really improve this standard. The standard was first released in 2021 in its first stable version. Now we have the 2.0. And thanks to the work done by everyone belonging to the project in the last 3 years. The idea was and is to have a common shared recommendations in order to edit seals, saying the same things in the same way. It is not it's not intended, Sigidoc is not intended to learn, to teach sigillography. One already has to know how to study seal using Sigidoc, but it's a way to prepare all this material, sharing common foundations. And as Claes just said, this is the paramount condition to have all this material. Another keywords interoperable, and which is not so far, and not only because almost all the seals are edited on paper. So this means that if you want to work on them, you have to have a lot of books open on your desk and try to find similar data, but because sometimes there is no real consistency in the edition criteria, especially among the sigilographers. So the idea to have a common and shared recommendations is a way to try to solve this first major problem. We are not saying colleagues what they should write, what they should think or do with their seals, of course, but we are trying to offer a tool allowing them to do what they want with their seals in a strictly independent way, but in a way that makes all this material, all this data in common, and they will be in the end usable for everyone. And that's also, maybe we will talk about this later, that's the reason why the main goal of the DigiByzSeal project is a portal, a search engine, which has been launched in March at the Symposium of Byzantine Sigillography, allowing to search all the corpora of Byzantine seals published according to the Sigidoc recommendations. And this is the real main objective, the main goal of this project, in order to create what Byzantine sigillography doesn't have so far, a real corpus of the seals of the Byzantine Empire. And with the idea that that should be only possible through a common effort, a shared effort among colleagues, and through digital tools.
Great, thank you, both of you, really, for clarifying this. Later on, we are going to talk about the corpora and how you actually digitize the seals. So we are going to get into a little bit more deep here. But before doing that, as a sigillography enthusiast myself, Martina knows very well. We've had and Panos, of course, we've had long conversations about seals. I would like to ask Claudia and you, Martina, here, why choosing seals? I can think of a million reasons, but I think it's way more important to hear what you think.
No, I mean, of course, we can think of a million reasons, but of course, I mean, we, as Claudia said before, we've been having a seminar on Byzantine seal for the past 10 years right now. It started in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so we could gather quite a lot of students. I was a student myself at the very beginning when we started this seminar, and yeah, what we recognized from the very beginning is that I mean, students were quite enthusiastic about seals because, I mean, they are like little time capsules. You really get access to a real person through an object that they had in their hands, most probably. And I mean, apart from like the sentimental value, if I can call it like that, of course, you have a whole lot of information, as you and as our listeners definitely know, on these very tiny pieces of lead. You have, of course, names, surnames, you have titles, offices, you have also, according, for example, to the iconography that they chose, you have some personal piety expression, and so on and so forth. So you have a huge amount of information that is, however, not accessible. And we've already talked about accessibility. I mean, the word accessibility has been already mentioned in the past couple of minutes. So the why seals? Because they have so much information that only a few people can actually access. Also, because you need to know how to read seals, you need to know how to interpret them, how to date them. Otherwise, it's not much more than a piece of lead, if I can say like that. But yeah, so through digitizing them and making them accessible, and of course in a sustainable way, and with, as I said, with a shared set of recommendations, so that everyone is on the same page, if you can say it like that. The goal was to make this huge amount of information accessible to a very, very big chunk of population. And I think we're going to talk about this later. Also, via the portal, we try to cater to not only the extremely expert sigillographer, but also to the historian of Byzantium, to the student who might want to search or browse through seals because they saw it in a history book or whatever. So yeah, I mean, accessibility goes also through, I mean, via different strata, if I can say it like that. I think Claudia might have a couple of things more to say than I did.
Yeah, I think, Martina, you said everything already. Just, I want to underline the importance of seals for prosopography. I mean, you just mentioned names, offices, titles, geographical denominations, and places where people held office, etc., etc. So we all know that sigillography and seals are the cornerstone of Byzantine prosopography. We always say that we give a number that 50% of the people we know from Byzantium, we know only through their seals. And we are now talking about something like 80 to 100,000 seals that have come down to us. So that's a huge number of people that hopefully in the long run will all be included into the relevant Byzantine prosopographical resources or databases. I'm talking about, PMBZ, Prosopography, der Mittelbyzantinischen Zeit. They have exploited seals to a very large content. PBW was the pioneering project in including information that we gather from seals, but it's not completed. And I remember Michael Jeffreys complaining at the International Conference of Byzantine Studies in London in 2006 about Byzantine Sigillography being an arcane field and seals not being accessible to scholars. And we very much hope that we will contribute to making seals accessible and searchable and usable. And as Martina said, not only by historians or Byzantine historians proper, but by people who are interested in the field. And you can make so much out of seals. I mean, that's the only way to really get to a person from Byzantium, to a Byzantine, living person, to a Byzantine human. And you can learn so much about people, how they expressed identity, religious identity, family identity, social identity, through the image they chose for their seal, etc., etc. So the more seals you can exploit, the more you may develop Byzantine studies and contribute to a better understanding of the Byzantine society in very many respects.
Thank you, both of you, for mentioning all the benefits from this project and what it has become to be for a researcher. For example, my master thesis, I searched for Thessaloniki in late Byzantine era, and I came across some names which I didn't know. And I asked Yannis and searched for a seal, just to be clear that this person has a connection with the city. And many more questions came up and more research just by searching for seals and what can we abstract from them. So I think that digitizing is a big deal in our field. And I would like to ask about the steps from physical to digital. How a seal is digitized, what steps you had to do, or any decisions that had to be made. So, Alessio, I would like to address you.
Yeah, sure. Well, there is from the seal, the LED object to the web page. Actually, there are several steps. Some of them are very traditional. It's in order to, the idea is to take the object and to apply what we can call a methodology in sigillography. I'd say that the first step is taking a good photo. Because today almost everyone works on high quality digital images, and that also is one of the main goal of the DigiByzSeal project, to have sometimes for the first time digital images, or to have new digital images. The former were about 20 years, were been taken about 20 years ago. So nothing comparable with what we can do today. So the really first step, because most of us, almost everyone actually works on photos, not really on the objects themselves. Also because the access to the object is still not so easy. So if you have, as it's very common, to see again a seal again and again, actually, it's difficult to go to the holding institution. So the first meaning of digitizing a seal, I'd say, is to take a good digital photo. After that, well, the idea is, again, as I said, to apply some shared recommendations. So to try to overcome this problem of publications not following exactly the same methodologies, or the same, not being really consistent. So try to have a more coherent corpus in the end. So the steps are, the first one is to give a date to a seal and try to identify the owner, so the person, the issuer of the seal, and if any, to identify the iconography of the seal. This is another major point of Byzantine sigillography. There is, as someone said, the seals are the largest corpus of Byzantine icons currently existing, and still underexploited by both the sigilographers and the art historians. So those are the very first steps and the next one is try to find what we call the parallels. So the same seals issued struck by the same object, the volatillion, the matrix, or the seal. Because there is not the same seriality than for coins, but there are series of seals produced by the same object. And this is important because this can help the identification of the person, this can help the reading of the legend, so try to establish for damaged seals the reading of the legend. In this case, we have one of the first benefit coming from the digital edition of a seal, that we decide to apply to each seal and to each identified matrix an identification number, a unique identification number. This contributes to make the seal a proper digital object, separated from all the other seals as an individual, but at the same time applying an ID also to matrices is a way to reproduce, to reconstitute the whole series coming from the same object, because there are two important things: knowing how many seals for the same matrix have been struck, possibly where, by whom, and where they have been found. But this information is difficult, very often difficult to have for Byzantine seals, unfortunately. But also to have the original matrix, because this is basically the same imprint left on those small discs of seal. And this is something that can be more easily achieved through digital editions, because many sigilographers can use, for example, the same ID for matrices when they find a parallel seal. And searching for one single ID for a matrix will give all the seals issued struck by the same instrument. So this is one of the benefits of a digital edition. Of course, what are called the linked open data are an obvious benefit because they allow to integrate the data coming from Byzantine seals to a larger world of data, of historical data for Byzantine studies and beyond that, medieval studies. This and the other way around, of course, Byzantine Sigillography can acquire new information and new data coming from outside the discipline. But what is important is also that using those common shared rules or maybe better recommendations, and having the possibility to integrate our data and to others. This allows also to verify the work done by the specialists. This is in a certain way a warranty of a really scientific work that can be verified, reproduced, and for which every step is known, is explicitly stated, and can be traced in the final digital edition. This is maybe one of the major benefit and the major warranties for us to have really a scholarly edition. This kind of work, being digital, is still considered by part of the scientific world are suspect. There is a lack of credibility, scientific credibility. But what is striking and what I realized working on digital editions is that is quite the opposite. Because if we have to apply to be compliant with a schema, which is the summa of our of how a digital edition in Sigidoc should work. We have to negotiate with the machine. And the machine will tell us, no, this is a mistake. You are not doing that in the right way. It requires a level of consistency and scientific, rigorous scientific method higher, in my opinion, higher than for paper publications. And this is very and to confirm that in Paris, part of the DigiByzSeal project was the digital conversion, digital enhancement of paper publication collections. And we had lot of problems with that, because every time the problem was to try to do again the mental path of the editor. And several times what we have on the paper doesn't allow us to do that. And this is a problem. This is a problem because we had to make some choices in order to adapt it to a much more strict, in the same way, environment, the one of the digital editions.
Thank you very much for that, Alessio. I have some questions, but I will use the next part of our recording to ask you. You really mentioned a couple of things that I would like us to explain a little bit more for our listeners. You said that we start from an image, and we all use images. It's not easy for us to go to archives. I'm lucky enough to study at a university that has some seals, but I had to move countries to make myself lucky. This is not the same for everyone. So imagery is probably the key here, and then obviously we have the metadata and all the other data you were using. But now I would like to ask Jan, how are we using this information to create the corpora and to make all this material accessible? As Martina said earlier, accessibility is the key here. So Jan, over to you.
Yes, first thing is, of course, to make it accessible for everyone is to have it online. Everywhere where you have internet, you can go to the seals and look at the seals. The next thing is to make them findable. So, and for this we have, again, the data standard, as it is mentioned so often. To use a standard allows people to work with the data when they understand the standard, and not to, so if everyone writes their own data structure, nobody really knows what the other do. Using a standard gives using a standard allows the people to communicate about the objects. And our platform. So we decided not to use a big database for each C for our C corporas, but to use smaller collection instances and accumulate all the data in one big search portal. So this allows, the using of the search portal allows to find all the fields in all the collections, but using the small collection instances allows to set the focus on different things. So it begins with the language. So we have the Robert Find collection, which is a German collection. The main language is German. But for the French collection, it's French, and our search portal, the main language is English. And it allows other seal collectors or institutions to easily participate. If they use the data standard and follow some rules, they have the opportunity to connect to us and create, if they are big enough, to create their own collection instance and provide their data to our federated search portal. So they have the control over the data, and they can say, okay, I don't really like the design of their collection instance. I want my own instance, and I want to set my own focus on something completely different. But I want everyone who knows the Sigidoc search portal to find my seals among all the other seals. So they can create their own instance and provide the data to us. So they are findable over us, but can do their own thing. And they have just to follow a small rule. So if they want to contribute to us, you should have a title for the seal, of course, in English. And they have to have an ID. But they can provide the data they want. They don't have to go in the depth like we do, or can even go further and make it more accessible. Yeah, and another part is the tools we are using. So, for example, we are using Kiln, which is a platform developed by the Department of Digital Humanities of the King's College in London, which is open source, so everyone can work with it and modify it if they need to create their own instances. Another big thing which is the OpenLime, which is an open source JavaScript library for the display of scalable high resolution images, which we use to display our RTI, reflectance transforming images representation of the seals. And as we are not using a database to store our seals, another very important tool is Git repositories, which we use to distribute and store our data. And we created something called webhooks to get an instant deployment of or delivery of the seals to the different instances as soon as they are published on a Git repository.
Thank you very much for that. Again, I have some questions, but now that we are covered how we digitize the seals and then how we make them accessible, Martina, you mentioned that the key here is accessibility, but from what I understand is also making things standardized. I guess this will be part of our conversation later on. But before getting into that, again, I would like to thank Jan and Alessio for explaining how the process works. I would like to ask actually you, Claudia and Martina, how do you teach your students sigillography now that you have actually established these new methods? What's your experience with teaching sigillography to academic students, either, I guess, postgraduate students, if not undergraduate as well?
Yeah, I can start. Teaching seals isn't that difficult. I mean, teaching digital sigillography is a bit more difficult, but we may possibly come to this in a second step. So teaching seals is easy in the sense that it's very easy to attract students' interest in the field, as Martina already said. Especially if you have the possibility to use original seals and you do not only have to work with, I mean, what we had at hand so far, paper publications. And it may be easier as soon as we get the portal properly running with better images. Alessio has talked about that. Jan just mentioned RTI photography, which is amazing, what you can produce in terms of images, and then you can zoom in and lighten the seal from different directions on your screen. You can play on it, and you really can detect remains of letters on the surface that have been corroded and are not visible anymore on the object. So this will change our approach in terms of visual accessibility to a large extent. So what we do in the seminars that we are running since 2015, if we remember correctly, is to teach an introduction into the main methods of sigillography. This, I mean, just the ability to read seals, what is written on a seal, to decipher very often what is written on the seal, to fill lacunae. Letters are missing, seals may be broken, you may have only half of a seal left, and if you're lucky, the other half is kept in another collection, but very often they just disappeared. You may be lucky to have a parallel specimen. Alessio already pointed to the fact that with the help of a Bouleuterion, Byzantine people were produced up to, we count 2,000 seals or something like that. So From some bullateria, we have up to 10, 15 specimens left, and parallel specimens may help to fill the lacunae and to fill the gaps. Alessio already mentioned iconography. You need to identify the image, the figures that are represented on a seal. That's very often religious figures. Jesus Christ has been used mainly for seals of emperors. There are a few exceptions, and very often it's the Virgin. In most cases, it's the Virgin Mary. Then we do have male and female saints, but we do also have profane images like animals. We do have sheep, birds, elephants, rabbits represented on seals, which help you to date a seal. Dating is extremely important and a very difficult issue. You can date according to epigraphical characteristics of the script, the letters, etc., but you can also date seals according to the titles and offices mentioned on the seal. So we know from other sources that this and that title has been attested since, let's say, the beginning of the 9th century. Then the seal needs to be dated postquem. And this also needs a kind of an introduction into the Byzantine administrative system. And so students need to get at least a basic understanding of Byzantine administration. Both, political and clerical. So we do have seals from people, from individual people. We do have seals from people who belonged to the Byzantine administration, to the Byzantine establishment. We do have seals from people who were active in the Byzantine church administration. You also need to have some knowledge about that. Not all of this can be done within a term. And we have to proceed starting from easy seals that are mostly monogrammatic seals. But on the other side, monogrammatic seals are not that easily readable either. But then we proceed to more complicated seals, that is seals that contain several lines of inscriptions, which contain a huge amount of information, as Martina mentioned already, prosopographical data with regard to offices and titles. We do have metrical seals, so they come at the very end. Seals inscriptions that are composed in a metrical form. It very much depends on the knowledge of the preliminary knowledge of students, how far we proceed, and also of their knowledge of languages. I may want to turn over to Martina. We taught sigillography, or rather digital Byzantine sigillography, or digital sigillography, not Byzantine proper, to students in China last year who didn't have much knowledge about the conventions, the epigraphical Leiden conventions, etc. But it worked perfectly well. So by the end of a week, they were able to create catalog entry of their objects, and we need to adjust the teaching schedule to the knowledge of the students very much. And the groups, especially when it comes to teaching digital Byzantine sigillography, the groups are not homogeneous in the sense that if we have students from Byzantine studies, they may not have knowledge in the age, whereas students from the age that we also teach Byzantine sigillography do not have knowledge of Byzantine studies proper, but still it works. And as I said, within a week, we achieve considerable results. I turn over to Martina, please.
No, I just want to say it's really like that. And the thing is that we cannot afford, we are a small subject worldwide, Byzantine studies, and we are working with a subfield of an already very small subject. So we cannot afford to have a one-size-fits-all kind of approach, because it's quite it's not that homogeneous, as Claudia said. So it's we might have students who are taking Byzantine studies as an elective, and perhaps they do medieval art history, whatever. So they might not come with what we expect in a way from students in terms of preliminary knowledge, but I have to say we were really pleasantly surprised. It worked so well. And I mean, not now, I'm not talking about the seminar of Byzantine Sigillography, but rather whenever we teach digital Byzantine Sigillography, that, I mean, we try and teach, let's say, in terms of text, how to make an edition. Let's say we teach how to make a digital edition using Sigidoc, and at the same time we teach the Leiden conventions and how to integrate, how to restore a lacuna, how to expand an abbreviation, and so on and so forth. So like this very much learning doing kind of approach, it proved very successful, to be honest. And I mean, but to be completely fair, this is not something that we came up with. This had been already done for years and proven very much successful by our very good friends and colleagues from the Epidoc community. So let's say Greco-Latin inscriptions on stone, and they have a very long history of teaching at the very same time how to make a print, let's say, edition of an inscription, and how to make a digital one using the Epidoc recommendations. So that's where we, let's say, try to take our inspiration from, and it did work. Of course, there are some things to be fine-tuned, but it really works. And also, once again, as Claudia said, you need to have or to acquire knowledge also in Byzantine administration or church hierarchy, whatever. It's all in all of this information is in a seal, and also by doing that, by looking at the material, by doing the addition of the material, at the end of the term, the results were actually very interesting. So we had students from the Department of Digital Humanities knowing what a judge of Paphlagonia was. So it was very rewarding. And also, as Claudia was saying, the stunning experience we had last year in China, where at the University of Changchun, where the previous knowledge was almost completely absent, both in let's say Byzantine epigraphy, sigillographies, or like text support, and the age, and still the results were there. So I think we can be happy and satisfied with that.
Lovely, amazing. Thank you very much also for explaining this part of your work, and thank you all for answering our questions. Martina, now I would like to invite you to help with the conversation part. So earlier you mentioned, Claes and Jan and Alessio, you did mention recording the data in a more standardized way, in a way that will allow us to manipulate the data in a more data-driven methodological way. So, as far as I understand, we're not talking about sigillographic skills here. We're talking about data management skills. So I would like to ask you a bit more technical question. How do you approach this in making sure that the data you are recording are all standardized? You already mentioned a couple of ways, but I would like us to get a little bit more in depth.
Maybe I just start with picking up a word that you just said. It's more about data management, and I would prefer to talk about data modeling in that case. So we model the data from a specific field in that case. So when you look at the standard like Sigidoc, you always have to take into account like where it comes from, so to say. So in this case, it comes from the community of sigilographers, and they negotiate with each other like what's important to be put into the standard. That's why we call it data modeling, because we build a model upon those, I called it editorial guidelines a bit earlier, like a model about how you work scientifically as a sigillographer. So the standard is meant to capture the process of describing a seal. So that's why we say we build a model upon the data, so to say. So it's more data modeling than data management. But what you were asking was like how we do this technically. And when you say technically, you mean like where do we type it in, or where do we or how do we work with the standard? So you mean the infrastructure, or so I have to ask back for that?
Both.
Both,
really.
Okay. Okay. This again is something which I will kind of delegate to Jan at a certain point. Because he's been working on the infrastructure part. Infrastructure means in that sense, that's like where do you type it in? So in the standard, when we talk about a standard, we talk about a certain data format, and the format is based on XML. So XML is something that you, I guess, all know, like when you think of HTML, which is meant to represent a website. XML is like the base standard for the whole thing, so to say. And you all have the vision of working with a text which contains all those bracketed expressions, and that's what the standardized part is. So, and when you look at an XML file, it looks quite peculiar at the first glance, but when you look at it more precisely, you will find that there's a hierarchy in it. And the hierarchy is, we call that the markup. The hierarchy is defined by the marked up pieces. So when we talk about names and offices, then you might find in that standard a piece which is called like office, and then the bracket closes again, then you can write the office, and then you have the next bracket. So in the end, technically, it's like typing in contents into a form, so to say. Okay, so imagine you have something like a table where it says at this point you have to type in the following, at that point you have to type in the following, and so on. So the standard is kind of, I again call it guideline, the guideline for you to write in your edition. So, and then even more technically, how do you do this? This is the point where I say, okay, I hand over to Jan. You can use editors like Oxygen, or you could kind of design a form-based editor, for example. So that's where I hand over to you, Jan.
So as Claes said, the nice thing on XML is it's human readable and also machine readable. So both words can work with it. In the most cases, when the data is not too complicated, it is fine to write inside the XML directly with specialized editors which can understand XML and help the user to create the files they want with the using of suggestions. What could you enter here, and which field is allowed here and which field is not allowed here, and you can go a step further and create some kind of custom editor which is programmed just for this topic, which is much easier for the human to much easier for the user to work with, because he just has a field title and he types the title of the seal, and he has the field issuer and he can type the name of the issuer. You can go further and say, okay, issuer must be a person, and we have a list of persons we already know. So you can choose from a list of persons and say, okay, in this seal is the same person as we already have in other seals. This looks like a sheet when you have an order and you fill all your information you need for the placement of the order. And it's easy for the user. It's hard work for the programmer, because the more complex the data is in the background, the more complex is the background programming. Yeah, and this is one of a big part for creating tools for not technical affine people to give them the possibility to work with the data they have and to make them digital.
I might add one more thing, so to say, because what Jan just said was like you can kind of work with the standard with different tools, but one thing which is again to be stressed is that the standard is kind of meant to help you in writing your edition. So it's I called it guideline before, and it helps you in it's like a template, so to say. I mean, Alessio earlier on mentioned that there's a schema which is kind of assuring that what you write in the standard is conformant to the standard. And the schema is kind of the backbone of working with that standard. So, but you can imagine just having a template which is not filled in at the first place, and you just fill in the information that you find on your seal. So this is kind of like in a very basic form to explain how you work with it. Another thing which I wanted to mention is that Alessio earlier on said that you negotiate your edition with a computer, but in the end, it's the computer helps you to write your edition in a way that has been negotiated in the community, because the negotiation is nothing that you do with a computer actually, but that's what the community did in designing the standard. So, and standards are always to be seen as the outcome of discussions in the community. So it's the consensus that you have about how to edit a seal. So, and this is kind of the essence of editorial work. So, and if you see it that way, then it's not something that controls your work, but it guides your work, it helps your work, and that's what it's meant to do.
Maybe what I could add is in the treatment of data in order to have them standardized, which means basically consistent, is the use of controlled vocabularies, thesauri, and what we call the authority lists. So this means that you can have in the legend, in the description of your seal, or in your edition, in the description of your own description of the seal, different words or different way to write the same word. If you use some controlled vocabularies and some thesauri, which are available in the guidelines to the user, everyone will be able to find those data. For example, we can have different ways to write an office, the name of an office, but in our authority list, this office is written in a standardized and common form, and according to which this term is indexed and made available for searching. This is a way, a basic way to ensure the standardized treatment of our data.
Usually the titles have the problem. Is it Sevastos or Sebastos? Is it Candidatos with K or with C? A very interesting way to create a more standardized way here.
Yeah, the only thing that I would like to mention is that the use of a certain font in the epigraphy or the presentation of what a seal has written on it. And I would like to mention the Athena Ruby and the benefits of such a font in order to give the exact form of a seal. Because I don't know if many students know it. So I would like to point out that the importance of how we present seals today.
Pushing very, very, very much the use of Athena Ruby. Also, it's its way of representing, let's say, in the most accurate way, the epigraphy on the seal. Of course, one might say, yeah, we have a picture for that, but it's a nice convention, and it's a font that has been. It's a dedicated font that it's not only a way to represent the seal, but also is fed by whatever we find on seal. It helps a lot. Also, I mean, it was conceived for that, also for to dating the seals in terms of their epigraphy. So I think that we should definitely use it, and we should use it in its whole, let's say, palette. So of new of added. Also because the once again the font is fed by the epigraphy of the seals. We find a variant character or a particular type of ligature, or you name it. We send it to Dumbarton Oaks so that they can, in batches, then add new characters to the font. But if I may add something on what you were discussing before, half a second, in terms of controlled vocabularies, thesauri, authority files. I'm a big fan of standardization and so on.
I think that our next step should be to try and model these data also as Wikidata, so that they are more structured and more accessible to everybody. As for now, we're working with internal authority files and authority lists. And of course, the problem with that is that they are project internal. And this means that people need to get access to them before. And I mean, our authority files are publicly available on our GitHub repository, but they are still very much internal and related to our project. That's why the goal would be to develop rather an ontology-based Wikidata approach to authority files, because projects in digital Byzantine studies are now thriving, and we have shared concerns and shared entities that we would like to point to.
Yeah, if I may add something on Athena Ruby, in an ideal, or I would rather put it like that, if you render a seal's inscription with Athena Ruby, it is very much already an interpretation, so what the editor thinks he or she sees on the seal. But still, it's of very much help to the sigillographer. And in the ideal world, I mean, it all depends on what the editor is tagging. In the ideal world, you will be able to find a specific rendering of the letter alpha. There are at least a dozen of ways of writing the letter alpha on a seal. And depending on how you tag it in the long run, we will be able to search for specific letters or letter combination or ligatures and stuff like that. So Sigidoc is very much about finding parallel specimens that, as I explained before, help the editor or the student, the scholar, to read the seal and to edit a seal in case there's a parallel specimen. And another comment, if I may, on standardization authority files, there's one point in which we possibly failed, and this is personal IDs, which, I mean, Charlotte Fouché very much encouraged us to introduce in Sigidoc, and it would be great to have a personal ID for every person who issued or who used seals, produced seals and used them in order to authenticate documents and send a letter. But we decided against that for several reasons, and that has to do with the question of indices. We decided against what we have included into Sigidoc and into the portal is an onomastic index, but we decided against IDs because there are several problems linked to this, like the question of identifications. So do two people called George and holding the office of whatever Martina mentioned, the Strategos of Paphlagonia, is this one or two people? And do two seals belong to the same people? What do we do with homonymy, people who have the same name and different offices, etc., etc.? There's a lot of dispute in the community about ascribing seals to specific people. And we decided against a solution for several reasons. First of all, because we don't have a closed corpus, and we hope that more people, more collections will include their seals into the portal. So we don't have a closed corpus, but the corpus is growing. What we introduced is faceted search. You can search for a personal name. You can search for a family name. You can combine personal names and family names. So you can, if you're looking for John Dukas, for instance, you can look for a search for John, and you can search for Dukas, and you can bind both of them, and they will both show up in the index. But we don't ascribe a specific seal. So within the schema, seals are of course linked, and you can search for other specimens, but a person is linked to a seal, and at a certain point, and this was thanks to our colleagues from the CCH, we have been struggling for a very long time on this issue, and at a certain point, they came up with the competence they gained in other projects. We just left this aside. We have ID numbers for every single seal. We have ID numbers for every single matrix. We also have clustered matrices that make things even more complicated. So we stick to seals number. We stick to Sigidoc numbers.
Yeah, basically the main reason is that Sigidoc is not an endeavor similar to the prosopography currently existing. So there is not necessarily a stable committee, small committee, gathering together all the material and try to make some decisions, saying that this Georgios could be the same as the other one in the other source. That's because Sigidoc is intended to be used by sigilographers independently, and every sigillographer has the right to think if this Georgios is or not the same as another one. So it's the idea was not to go against or to have to renegotiate each time with colleagues publishing corpora this kind of information. So it was impossible to have that in a necessarily consistent, uniform way in order to give an ID. So the solution the CCH gave us was actually the most interesting, the most effective, and there is absolutely no loss in data. It's I think a very good solution for our corpus, which is a sigillographic corpus, not mainly a prosopographical one.
Yeah, we contribute to prosopography, as we said before, but we do not write, in quotation marks, a prosopography. So that's the main difference.
Yes, and I think that's really the point. I mean, we struggled, as Claudia said, for literally 3 years with this, because it was unfathomable for a sigillographic corpus not to give also to create, let's say, new people, if I can say so. But when you see, let's say, the final product, let me call it like that. So if you see the portal, you realize that the main job and the main goal of every sigillographic publication, if you really think about it, is, as Claudia said, to look for parallels, to prove your hypothesis, to try and find something that proves or disproves what you think you have read on a seal. So, and in order to do so, what is of incredible importance, rather than giving ID to people, is to have a granular atomic faceted search, where instead of looking for Alexios Komeninos, you look for Alexios, and then you filter with the Komeninos, then you filter again and you filter again until you find what you're looking for. Or if you want to go in the exactly opposite direction, you say, okay, I don't know, I will just look for all the Alexi and just have all of them until I find what I'm looking for. So yeah, it's once again, it's an open corpus. It's always growing. We are not working with steady data. I mean, it is always growing, and our hope and wish is that whatever data we produce in terms of prosopography onomastics can be just retrieved and reused by other corpora, and it is just a matter of will, because it can be retrieved easily and reused because it is in a format that allows that and that is designed for that. So yeah, shout out to the PBW and PMBZ, just come and grab everything. That's completely fine.
Byzantine sigillography and sigillographies of other pre-modern cultures share the same challenges and the same problems. And we just recently published a volume, Digital Approaches to Medieval Sigillography, edited by Martina, Claes, and me, as a special issue in the Digital Medievalist that touches upon shared problems and digital solutions. And it's open access, and yeah, we recommend to have a look at it.
Thank you, Claudia. And we will provide the links in the description box so our listeners can access the contributions there.
So, as we said, the ultimate goal of our project, DigiByzSeal, is the creation of a portal, which is a search engine for all the seals published according to the Sigidoc recommendations. On the homepage of the portal, the link will be provided in the description of the podcast. There are also a few onboarding guidelines on how to participate in it, how to have a repository of seals encoded according to Sigidoc, and how to have this data published or at least made available through the portal, through a separate website, if possible or necessary, for the author, for the responsible of the collection, or at least available and searchable through this portal, which has been called simply Sigidoc portal, because Sigidoc is the well-known term associated to the digital Byzantine Sigillography. So feel free to join the responsible of the DigiByzSeal project and to see if you are interested, see how to do that, and if you can you find a good solution for your collection.
Perfect. So I would like to thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for accepting to record this episode with us. It's been an honor really to have you, because as Panos and I have been talking for so long, we love what you do, and Martina, you know about it, but we haven't had the opportunity to thank all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and obviously we are going to be in touch, to stay in touch, and we are really looking forward to renew our meeting for the future and see how Sigidoc is being developed. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.